Hare Krishna everyone. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita 1.44 to 46, 3 shlokas together. First we recite the shlokas and then we read the word-to-word meaning, translation, purport, and we go into the discussion. Text 44. Aho bata mahat papam kartam vyavastita vayam yadraja sukha lobhena hantam swajhanam udaitaha yadi mam apratikaram ashastram shastrapanaya dhritarashtra ranehanas tanme kshemataram bhavet. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva arjuna sankhye ratopasta upavisat visrijye sasaram chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. Word-to-word translation from text 44. Aho, alas. Bata, how strange it is. Mahat, great. Papam, sins. Kartam, to perform. Vyavastitaha, have decided. Vayam, we. Yet, because. Rajasuka lobhena, driven by the greed for royal happiness. Hantam, to kill. Swajhanam, kinsmen. Udhataha, trying. We do the translation and purport and then we go, or we... Okay. Translation. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Please repeat. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Purport. Driven by the selfish motives, one may be inclined to such sinful acts as killing of one's own brother, father, or mother. There are many such instances in the history of the world, but Arjuna, being a saintly devotee of the Lord, is always conscious of moral principles and therefore takes care to avoid such activities. Text 45. Word-to-word translation. Yadi, even if. Mam, me. Apratikaram, without being resistant. Ashastram, without being fully equipped. Shastra panayana, those with weapons in hand. Dhritarashtraha, the sons of Dhritarashtra. Rane, on the battlefield. Hanyun, may kill. Tat, that. Me, for me. Kshemataram, better. Bhavet, would be. Translation. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Please repeat. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresting on the battlefield. Purport. It is a custom according to Kshatriya fighting principles that an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. Arjuna, however, decided that even if attacked by the enemy in such an awkward position, he would not fight. He did not consider how much the other party was bent upon fighting. All these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. Text 46. Word-to-word translation. Sanjaya Vacha. Sanjaya said, Evam, thus, Uktva, saying, Arjuna, Sankyaha, in the battlefield, Ratha, of the chariot, Upastite, on the seat, Upavistat, sat down again, Vistrijya, putting aside, Sasaram, along with the arrows, Chapam, the bow, Soka, by lamentation, Samvigna, distressed, Manasaha, within the mind. Translation. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. Please repeat. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bows and arrows and sat down on the chariot, and his mind overwhelmed with grief. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Prabhupada ki Jai. While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive the self-knowledge. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Shri Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone for today's evening discussion on the chapter 1 titled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield. So we are discussing 3 shlokas today. Please give me your blessings so that I can speak for my own purification, and it will be a service for you as well as to Srila Prabhupada. So shloka number 1.44 to 46. Chapter 1, 44 to 46. 3 shlokas. So today we see the topic of discussion I have prepared with 2 sections. The first part of the discussion would be on the compassion aspect. And the second part of the discussion will be on the setbacks. So we all face setbacks. So here we observe the psychology of Arjuna. As we've been observing the armies on the battlefield, how the title itself states, we see he asked Krishna to pull the chariot in the midst of the armies so that he wanted to see who all has assembled in the battlefield, who is eager to fight this war. So as soon as he sees his teachers, his friends, his relatives, sons, son-in-law, brothers and brother-in-laws, and all the family members, and all the innocent soldiers, he is overwhelmed with grief. And at the same time, he is also speaking moral and ethical principles to Krishna. He's stating out, he's speaking out his mind very clearly. And then he pours down his compassion. Why I have to fight? Especially in today's section 44 and 45, he's saying, why I have to fight this war? And what will I get is, because I have a desire to enjoy this royal happiness, so I'm fighting this war. So he's putting out himself and saying that I have a wrong desire. And this is what is connecting me to come to the battlefield and fight a war. And he's sensing that this is wrong. At the cost of someone's life, I want to enjoy, I want to fulfill my desire. And then in Shloka 45, he says that now I don't want to entertain this desire, so I better die in the hands of the enemies, even though I'm unarmed. So Prabhupada is stating that this is not a suitable attitude of a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya, of course, today we don't have such Kshatriyas in society, so we don't know what is a Kshatriya all about. But to speak, a Kshatriya never turns back when challenged for a fight. So this is very uncommon, which is not fitting Arjuna's character. But still, out of compassion, he didn't want to fight, and he didn't want to fulfill his desire, where there will be a massive destruction. And then Sanjaya, who is describing all the incidents to Dhritarashtra, we see how the dialogue of Bhagavad-Gita opens. It's the first dialogue opens between Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra. And Sanjaya is saying, no, Dhritarashtra asks, when my sons and the sons of the Pandu assembled in the Kurukshetra, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, what is happening? So Sanjaya is now telling, now after expressing all his grief, now Arjuna, he sat down and he's expressing his morals. So this is also a kind of comforting for Dhritarashtra, because Dhritarashtra was afraid of how the power or influence of the battlefield, the Kurukshetra, the holy place, might be influencing the Pandavas. But as soon as he heard that Arjuna is not willing to fight, and he sat down in morose, so it's a comforting feeling for Dhritarashtra. So this is a kind of answer for Dhritarashtra's question. But when we see the compassion aspect of Arjuna, what is so wrong about it? Is his compassion is wrong? Anyone can say? They can. It's open. Is Arjuna's compassion in this particular situation, is it wrong? Yes. Why would it be?
He's not following the orders of his Guru and his spiritual master, because Krishna is...
But Krishna didn't open his mouth yet. Krishna hasn't started his dialogue. Okay, so he is violating his duty. Okay, we can take that way. And what else? Why Arjuna's compassion is wrong?
Because Kauravas has done so many things wrong.
Yes.
Tried to kill Pandavas many times.
Yes.
Through many different ways, which is not right. So we should think that way.
Yeah, so he's falling into the side of more emotional. He's becoming more emotional and forgetting the difference between dharma and adharma. Yeah.
Actually, Mataji, this Arjuna is not following the order of the superiors. Even Kunti Mata, before the war started, she instructed specifically, she gave the instruction, one was, you go and fight.
Okay.
So the instruction to him also.
Okay.
So he is not following the order of his own mother.
Okay.
So that is a wrong on his part.
Okay.
He's just going into the material things.
Okay. So he's more, his concentration is, although he's compassionate, his concentration is mostly on the materialistic side. So he's not going onto the spiritual aspect. So before we go further into it, I just wanted to say one story from Srimad Bhagavatam I wanted to share. So long time ago, there was a wife and a husband, and they desired for an offspring. Of course, when husband and wife are together, they wanted offspring. So they followed many ritualistic ceremonies, and finally they got a baby girl. But now the husband is not happy because they got a baby girl. He wanted a baby boy. So with the help of a saintly person, they somehow managed to get the gender of the baby girl changed to baby boy. So the girl became boy. And then this boy grew up into his youth, and he goes for hunting. And he enters into an enchanted forest. And then what is so special about this enchanted forest? Whoever, whether it's a human being or animals or any kind of male form, they change into female. So as he entered into the enchanted forest, he became she, right? And then he was surprised at this change. All of a sudden, he became she. And then upon the request and power of his spiritual master, he's able to regain back from she form to he form, but with a condition. 1 month he will be a he, and 1 month he will be a she, which is quite confusing. It's very intriguing, isn't it, the story? And like, can you imagine, put yourself into this situation. For 1 month you are a male, 1 month you are a female. By the time I understand who I am, I'm already into another designation. By the time I readjust myself into she, I become a he. So this is a constant confusion. Can you battle with this confusion all the time? So there is a constant identification crisis, right, for this person. And when someone has such an identification crisis, you wouldn't be able to plan your life properly, right? All the time there is confusion. I'm not able to, really, I cannot accept who I am. And this is the same thing that goes with the jiva, the conditioned soul. Constantly it is changing the body in 8.4 million species of life. In different bodies we are changing. So we all the time we are encountering same bodily misidentification. And we are having identification crisis. And because of this, we are not able to plan our life properly, right? What should be our goal? Okay, I am in a female body, I plan certain things. Then time comes to an end, and then I shift to another body, maybe a male or maybe an animal, maybe an insect. What can I plan? So there's a confusion. So just like Arjuna, how although he's compassionate, he forgets that the compassion has to be applied to spiritual. Similarly, do us also. We all are very compassionate people. We all have compassion. All the living entities, they have compassion. But because it is placed only in the material things, we are not able to really get fullest of ourselves. So here, Arjuna is put into this kind of dilemma just to show that how there is an act of misplaced compassion. Now Krishna will be using Arjuna to really show what is real compassion. So what is real compassion? Real compassion is awakening ourselves to our real identity, to who we are. I am the spirit soul, I'm the servant of Krishna. And Prabhupada explains in 2.1 purport that this compassion, this spiritual compassion is called self-realization. So the story what we heard about this male of moving from male to female, female to male, is the story of Sudyumna. This character is described in Canto 9. Sudyumna, yeah. So he spent all his youth in this confusion. I mean, for him, at least, he's He's educated in the spiritual way, so maybe he handled it better. But if that is the case with us, I'm sure I wouldn't be able to do it. So, but what is a good thing about him? Although he had so much confusion that's going around, at the time of retirement, he retired. He gave up his kingdom, and he took up the spiritual practices, and he went back home, back to Godhead. So there can be so many material confusions that can be happening to our lives. But we have to be focused on our spiritual growth, spiritual self-realization. So, and we have to identify that we have a spiritual need, which is very important. And material life will bring anxiety, whereas spiritual awakening brings us our identity, relief, and happiness. And that's what we will see even in the case of Arjuna. As far as he's putting his material compassion, he's completely out of his way. He becomes so anxious, his body is trembling, he puts down, his mind is overwhelmed with grief, right? He's mentally exhausted. He cannot think anything straight. And then his bodily just changed. He collapsed onto the chariot. And then there's a lot of disappointment that he has to deal with it, right? But as soon as he's been enlightened throughout the Bhagavad-Gita, he lifts himself because there is a spiritual enlightenment. And then automatically he has a relief from this anxiety, and then he comes to happiness. And now another second part of the discussion is based on 1.46 shloka, is about how to deal with the setbacks. So we all have setbacks. Does setbacks happen only to Arjuna in the Kurukshetra? No. Setbacks happen to every one of us. So I want to share two of my personal examples, which I thought would be relevant. I don't know, let's see. When I was doing my master's degree, I had a coursework by research. So 1 year we are just doing research work. So it's 1 year, that is 2 semesters whole of research work. So out of 14 students, I was the first one to produce some results in the lab after pretty much after 5 months of work, 5-6 months of work. And I was very happy, and my coordinator was very happy that I was the one producing getting some results out, and I'm going out there. And then we were very happy, and it was a Friday, and Saturday, Sunday the lab was off. And then Monday we came, and then we realized the whole fridges in the lab somehow got contaminated. And all the samples and all the stock has been completely contaminated. And I had no other samples left out. And we all are disappointed, of course. It's a massive contamination. They had needed to do cleaning, fumigation, whatnot. So it took like a week for the whole lab to restore back. And one side is this anxiety that was going in our lives. Like just not me, because other fellow students are also working hard. Of course, we were not working whole night, but pretty much we are putting a lot number of hours into our work. So it was a big disappointment. And for me, much more bigger disappointment was I started producing results, and this is the time it collapsed. And I had only 2 months to finish off my thesis, and I have to submit. And as the results were coming, my coordinator told me, okay, we can go to the next level of the project, which is inducing these, we were working on proteases. So we can induce these proteases into the rabbits, and then we can produce antibodies. The whole idea is to produce antibodies for a prostate cancer project. But as we don't have any samples to go into the next step. So again, for the next 8 weeks, we are trying to get the results, but everything was failing because it was, again, a lot of hard work. And then finally, we couldn't produce, we could get just the results on time, which is just needed for the submission of the thesis. We couldn't go to the next step. So obviously my coordinator was disappointed that we couldn't go anything further than that. And I finished my thesis, I submitted. But I was stuck in my heart because I didn't know whether to cry or whether to just accept it. As I finished my studies, I was visiting one of my friends who is doing his PhD research work. So one of the evenings I went to see him to see what are the perspectives for next in my career. So he's working on a project, I don't remember the whole details, but he was working on tadpoles. These are the before the frogs, like before the fully grown frogs, these are the before stage of the tadpoles. What they do is they induce the tadpoles, and the tadpoles, they produce a lot of, they induce them to have a lot of ovulation. That means a lot of ovaries come. And from time to time, he takes out the ovaries and then stitches them back, throws them into the water. So it's continuous process. And I just, before, in my second semester, in my last semester of my project, I entered into Krishna consciousness. I just was exposed to Krishna consciousness. So then I saw this, my friend doing this, and then I realized something. If my project would have been successful, I would have been doing the same thing to these rabbits. All the time, injecting something into this animal, and then taking out their blood and secretions, and all the time I'm offering torture to these animals. So in one sense, I felt that it was a narrow escape from such a vikarmic activity. But before, I didn't have such an idea. I was always thinking that, oh, if my project gets successful, I get a paper out. If I get a paper out, then I go into PhD. If I get a PhD into it, I get into postdoc. So this was my planning. But that setback was a narrow escape out. And it took me for a while to understand this concept, that I was not involved into any kind of vikarmic activity. And then recently, there was another similar small setback, not big one, just on the Wednesday. On the Wednesday morning, Adipurush Prabhu was giving class, and he was teaching us how to thank Krishna for everything that's happening in our life. And then he uses an example that, thank you, Krishna, for sending us the rain. And then he says, rain is good. Thank you, Krishna, for sending us the rain, because of the rain, there's no dirt, there's no dust. So he was giving so many examples. And then there was an order, I have to go to the godown. I went to the godown. And because of the rain, there were some leaks in the godown. And then whole water flooded, and the whole godown was in water. And then I was thinking, why should I thank Krishna for sending the rain? I mean, it's the same. In the morning, I was listening to Prabhu, and he was telling that I should be thankful to Krishna. And now I'm thinking, why should I thank Krishna for sending the rain? And anyways, then I was like, okay, I came back to the shop. I asked my friend to come, and she accompanied, and we tried to get things done, be really clean, mopped, got all the wet boxes out. We did all the hard, dirty labor work. And I was really thinking again and again, this was constantly going, why should I thank Krishna for sending me the rain? But at the end of the whole job, I was so relieved because my friend was with me all the time. And at the end of the job, when we closed the shutter, when we finished everything, we closed the shutter, I was thinking, thank you, Krishna, for sending me the rain. Because I realized three things. One, if my friend wasn't there, I would not known her good qualities. Her patience, how she was dealing with me, how she was handling the situation. I was able to observe a friend more closely. So it was good. So thank you, Krishna, for sending the rain. Second, it was just a prelude, because the whole day it was raining. If I wouldn't have gone on time to the go down, it would have flooded more. That time only the boxes got wet. But if I wouldn't have gone on that day, particular day, even the books would have gone damaged. We didn't have any other damage, just the boxes got wet. So thank you, Krishna, for sending the rain. And the third thing, already Mother Devi Shakti took me last week and she told me, these are the places it will be leaking, so just be careful. But I postponed to this week, so it was an alert for me to do things on time. So again, it was like, thank you, Krishna, for sending me the rain. So I realized in both the setbacks, whether it was in my materialistic studies or in the spiritual service times, I had both times I had setbacks. So it clearly shows, at least for me, I was thinking on this point, it clearly showed material world, whether you're practicing Krishna consciousness or whether you're involved into the material activities, you will have setbacks. But the idea is, how would you get out of these setbacks? How carefully, how nicely you can get back to the setbacks. Then Adipurush Prabhu was also mentioning a point. Sometimes accepting Krishna's plan is best than understanding his plan. By accepting, we understand the plan. I mean, of course, I was complaining all the way, cleaning the go down. I was thinking, why are you sending me the rain? But then at the end, the result was very nice, because I could appreciate the devotee. I could appreciate that I should not procrastinate. And I also appreciated that major damage would have happened, but very minor would have left. So the same thing, Arjuna also is having a setback here. But if you see, he was on the battlefield, he cast aside his bow and arrows, he sat down on his chariot, his mind was overwhelmed with grief. But something very unique that Arjuna is displaying. Although so many things are happening, his mind, his body is not working, he's completely confused, but he never left the battlefield. He is on the battlefield still. There is a setback, he's still on the battlefield. So we can see, and what happened? He went through the whole ordeal, but he never left the battlefield. And we can see in 18 chapters, 78 shloka, the last shloka. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Pato Dhanodhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there is also certainly be opulence, victory, and extraordinary power and morality. And that is my opinion. Whose opinion? Sanjaya's opinion. The same Sanjaya is telling, right? And you can see something. Did you hear this? Dhanur Daraha. That means he is the one who is holding his bow and arrow. Here he dropped off his bow and arrow, right? And he picked up the bow and arrow by the end of the Bhagavad-Gita. This is even before the battle started. So what does it mean? So at the time of the setback, I may not have a conviction to pray to Lord Brahma. This is a famous prayer that we keep hearing in our classes in our society. Tate nukampam susimekshamano bunjaye vyatma kata vipakam ridvap vapur vidhan namaste jiveta yog mukti pade sadhaya bhag. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectable obeisances with his heart, words and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it becomes his rightful claim. Maybe I don't have this conviction to sing this prayer, or I cannot call out like how Queen Kunti says, Vipado santu tau chaswat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshana yat syad apunar bhava darshanam. I wish that all those calamities would again and again happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again, For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. So I was also thinking, what made a difference for me is I was hearing to this particular devotee who has so much conviction. So, like Adipurush Prabhu was telling, he was thanking Krishna with so much conviction, right? And I don't have this conviction. But the very fact that I heard, so it was going in my mind, right? So what is the best thing that we learn from here? That we have to keep in association of those devotees who have faith and who are realized by their wisdom. And in one lecture I heard, I will paraphrase what I heard. One disciple of Srila Prabhupada asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you say that when we are in devotional service, we are already in the transcendental platform. But how is that we are also at the same time affected by material modes of nature? Then Prabhupada says, if you are in the boat, in the ocean, you are safe. But at times, the boat will be hit by so many waves. But make sure you're still in the boat. So there will be so many disturbances that would be coming into our lives. But no matter, we have to keep ourselves in the boat. And then how is this possible? Only by in association of Vaishnavas, and we hear from them. So just like Arjuna, who heard the message of Bhagavad-Gita from Krishna, Krishna tells him, Tak Shrinu, just hear from me. He says in 7.1, Tak Shrinu, hear from me. And then we can see, as Arjuna was hearing, his heart was so transformed from where he dropped off his bow and arrow to the place where he picks up his bow and arrow and fights the war and wins the war. And all what he did, he stayed on the boat. And all we have to do is also to stay in the boat. Whether we are able to really, with conviction, we are able to pray to the Lord or not, just by keeping ourselves in the association, we will be able to move through it. So there's another shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam that also signifies Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridaya Nantostoya Badrani Vinunoti Sat Shrut Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, in everyone's heart and benefactor of truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of a devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And we also see another live example is our society has just been 50 years old. And there's so many Vaishnavas who have been from the very beginning days to till date. And can you expect that the material world is without any setbacks, they would have moved these many years? Definitely not. Many of them, they might have faced so many setbacks. Some of them would have told, but many wouldn't have told even. But what made them stay is actually an inspiration for us to get along with these setbacks. So in today's discussion, as we have seen, one is where to place our compassion. From material, we have to move from the compassion aspect, we have to move from material to spiritual. And the second part, how to deal with setbacks. Although we are not really ready, at least I'm not ready for the setback, but okay, let's try. I end the class here. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hare Krishna.
So as understand what you said, just like from Bhagavad-Gita, from the beginning that Arjuna wanted to fight, he left his bow and arrow.
Yes.
In the end, that is Vrindavan.
Yes.
So in all situations, we need conversation. Some who can convince us that what we want to do, that you should do. So now, how can we understand in our material life, the problems are coming great, and we should consult with other devotees or our friends so that we can understand that whatever I am doing is correct or not.
Yeah, we always take guidance. We take help of Prabhupada books, and we take guidance from the senior devotees, sadhus, spiritual master. They all are there for us. I mean, our lives are much more easier compared to at least the beginner devotees, I guess, because they have to work out everything. For now, for us, it's like everything served on the prasadam plate, just we have to eat. At least I see that way. If I have a setback, I can always go and ask someone, right? But for the beginner devotees, everyone is at every different place, and they're starting temples, they have so many problems, they don't know how to consult. But we're moving with the orders of spiritual master, and yeah, so.
Suppose I am irritated with one person. So I am always, when I see that person, the irritation comes in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So how I can rectify that irritation?
I heard my teacher told us that we can always pray for them. By praying for others, we remove that envy or that contamination, what we have. By praying for others and also seeing them as spirit soul. And it may not happen just in an overnight time. It may take some work that we have to be doing on ourselves. So you may see that what is really troubling. I also have so many people like that. but the best thing is always pray for them. Yeah.
Somewhere in Bhagavad-Gita or somewhere I read that if these things are happening you, but people think that maybe your past karmas are very bad, because of that one this person is giving you trouble or something. So you blame yourself instead of blaming others.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good accepting your own. Yeah.
Accepting Krishna's plans.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
The purport of 1.44, Srila Prabhupada writes that there are so many instances in the history. And one of the instances in the history is that by the order of his father Parsuram, his father Jamdagni, and because of the Renuka, he killed his mother and all these things, right? So he just followed the order of father to kill mother. Now we have a situation here. Arjuna is on the battlefield after all the arrangements have been made, and he is the one on whom whole Pandavas depend. At that point of time, he wants to quit. Right? So if you compare both the situations, the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita and Mahabharata, we see. So how do we take it? Because one place we see in the Shastras, order is given, chop off the head of the mother. Right? And now, mother has given the order, and still he wants to quit. And he says, no, I have a compassion.
But see, in either of the cases, they both follow the order of Krishna.
Arjuna is not following.
No, he might be. No, he might be now.
Yeah.
But he hasn't. If that is the case, he would have left the battlefield. No, he didn't. That itself shows. But he collapsed because he saw his limitedness. But still, he is holding on. You can see how he surrenders onto Krishna.
All the way.
Yeah, and then he asked, Krishna, I am now your disciple. Now you please instruct me, what should I be doing?
Yes.
So he didn't really refuse to do what he's asked to, what is his duty to, but he's just confused. So he's taking help of Krishna to follow the order. And also there is a good clarification, maybe, because he didn't wanted to act out of that Kshatriya greed, like how he was telling, driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness. So he wants to make sure whatever I'm doing is actually really approved by Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what he wants to do. So he's checking. He's in a motive. Am I right? Am I really right? Yeah.
It could be other way around, because Arjuna, in this situation, when he's being asked to quit, he says, no, I have a compassion. But Krishna is saying, no, I have a compassion. So how do we take it? Because one place we see in the Shastras, order is given, chop off the head of the mother. Right? And now, mother has given the order, and still he wants to quit. And he says, no, I have a compassion. behaving in this way, actually it's not he is doing for himself.
Mhm.
For Bhagavad-Gita is basically for us.
Yes.
And Krishna has spoken when he says in the 4th chapter,
Mhm.
right, that he is speaking the Bhagavad-Gita given by the Son God just to re-establish the principles.
Yes.
In 4.2.
Mhm.
So Arjuna is, if Arjuna had not done this situation,
Mhm.
created,
Mhm.
then we will not have Bhagavad-Gita.
Okay.
Straight away war will start,
Mhm.
right? So in that way, the service from Arjuna, in comparison to Parsuram, is that way is more even.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what. But Krishna also says this is just an addition. Krishna also says that become my instrument.
Yeah.
He says that if not you, I will choose someone else.
Correct.
So, if Krishna already decided that Bhagavad Gita will be coming, but he's asking Arjuna to be the part of that, being an instrument.
In 11.33 he says that you become my
An
instrument.
instrument, yeah. Yes. So the whole idea is to become an instrument.
And Mataji, Prabhu,
Yes.
Prabhu asked a question about this, no? So we can see the life of Srila Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
He had so many setbacks while going on the Jalgita, right?
Yes.
3 times heart attacks. So he continued. He
Yes.
didn't say, no, I have a heart attack, I'll go back. Following the order of spiritual master. So if we continue, this is a very good point you said that he sat on the chariot, he didn't leave.
Mm.
Same way Srila Prabhupada continued. So if we continue in the service, then definitely we are going to achieve the mercy of the Krishna and we are going to achieve the goal.
Yeah. Yes. But sometimes, it takes a lot of convictions that needed to add it to our faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just a rain came and then I started already complaining. So this is where I am at, So,
Accepting the Krishna's plan.
yeah, so it gave me a little conviction to more add it to my faith. So this is where I am at.
That's
So,
how we develop ourselves.
yes. It's not like blindly, okay, this is what happened and I have to accept. I cannot, maybe.
We go through this.
Yes. Thank you. Any question?
I just want to say that the problem maybe is in the mind. Krishna said that it's more difficult to domination of mind, even the wind. So in this moment, you have a problem with the mind also. So what to speak about us? If the most elevate son of Krishna, so is a problem with the mind. So this is a lesson for the rest of the human beings. So in one point this, and other maybe in the mind is distraction about to be not a Kshatriya but to be in this moment like a Brahmana, a very, very sensible
Kind-hearted.
about what you say about the doctors, about the animals, the argument they used to say also for the fact that they have suffering to the animals for the best for the human beings, for to have cancer against something. So this is the argument. Sometimes the doctor say, I kill this animal or I make suffering this animal, but maybe with this suffering I can save some lives. But what does it mean? This is in the mind from
I mean,
the farming. So I mean, it's difficult.
yeah, like, if you go into the research field, they think that many they don't even consider animals as how do you say? They believe that the animals doesn't have soul. Many doesn't even believe. And the second is they always project out there's a higher cause. Okay, even this animal is suffering, but you see how many people will be saved. They project out a scale saying that what is the ratio of how many you can save. Even I was very adamant and headstrong. When I first met my spiritual master, I told him the same thing. I don't understand this Hare Krishnas, But if I make an invention, I'm sure I can save so many people. So this is science. It gives a lot of contamination also to the mind. Yes, Prabhu.
A point regarding the Parsuram killed his mother
Yes.
without this one. But Parsuram father, he told his brothers to they were not ready to give. And Parsuram knew the power of his father.
Yeah, that he will revive them back. Yes.
So that's why he came without thinking that I'll kill them, I'll ask my father to give them again life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this was in his mind.
So he's very
He was-
wise.
He was already convinced my father is having power.
Yes.
So these things was there, that's why he killed his mother.
So in the Bhagavatam and the other Shastras also, his mind, he just followed whatever father said, he just followed.
Yeah, because
He
he was
didn't-
knowing the power of his father.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Please forgive me for any offenses.